Okay, now we'll be seeing what is diuretics. So before starting diuretics, let's see the classification. Classification, you have high ceiling, medium efficacy, and you have weak. Okay, and then in under high ceiling, there is furosemide, fumetamide, torsemide, and coming to medium efficacy, there is benzothiazidines and thiazide like. Under benzothiazidines, there is hydrochlorothiazide, hydroflumethiazide, and benzthiazide. Then talking about thiazide like, there is chlorthalidone, metolazone, zepamide, indapamide, and clopamide. And going to weak, there are three categories, that is osmotic diuretics, and then carbonic anhydrase inhibitors, and then potassium sparing. Under potassium sparing, it is further classified into two categories, that is aldosterone antagonists and renal epithelial sodium channel inhibitors. Talking about the examples of weak, that is osmotic diuretics has mannitol, isosorboid, and glycerol. Carbonic anhydrase inhibitors contains acetazolamide, and potassium sparing under aldosterone antagonists there's spironolactone and eflorinon, and renal epithelial sodium channel inhibitors there is amiloride and triamterene. Then we'll be talking about few topics, some must know topics, that is we'll be talking about furosemide, and then there is acetazolamide and spironolactone, and also mannitol to finish it off. And then these drugs you'll get to know once you have memorized the classification. So firstly, please memorize the classification. And then you have furosemide. Talking about furosemide is an important loop diuretic. Okay, and then other examples include bumetanide, torsemide, and this furosemide, it acts on thick ascending loop of Henle, and it is as you know, it's a high ceiling diuretic. And then about the mechanism of action, it binds to the sodium potassium 2 chloride cotransporter, and it blocks its function and increases the excretion of sodium and chloride in the urine. And through this mechanism, there's also excretion of bicarbonate, magnesium, and calcium also seen. And the uses in general includes renal and cardiac edema, hypercalcemia, pulmonary edema, cerebral edema, hypertension, and volume overload. And talking about the adverse effects, there is hypo and hyper. Under hypo, you have hypokalemia, hyponatremia, hypocalcemia, and hypomagnesemia. And hyper, there is hyperglycemia, hyperuricemia, hyperlipidemia, and it also contributes to ototoxicity and hypersensitivity. And the drug interactions of furosemide includes, when given with digoxin, it causes digoxin toxicity, and along with aminoglycosides causes ototoxicity, and with NSAIDs it causes hindrance in the hypertension property. And then going to lithium toxicity and amiloride, both of them act together and it produces a synergistic effect. Then going on to acetazolamide, It is a carbonic anhydrase inhibitor, and the mechanism of action is that it inhibits carbonic anhydrase, and carbonic anhydrase, as you see, it is required for the formation of H2CO3, which further dissociates into H plus and HCO3, that is hydrogen and bicarbonate. So the sodium and hydrogen exchange is prevented, and excretion of sodium and bicarbonate is seen in urine. And uses, it includes glaucoma, and uses of acetazolamide, it causes glaucoma, and acidic drug poisoning, acute mountain sickness, and adverse effects of acetazolamide include hypersensitivity reaction, drowsiness, paresthesia, headache, hypokalemia, metabolic acidosis, and renal stones. And it should be completely contraindicated in liver disease and COPD. Moving on to spironolactone, you will be knowing it is an aldosterone antagonist. It is a synthetic steroid which is very similar to the aldosterone. And then talking about the mechanism of action, it inhibits the aldosterone activity, and then it interferes with the aldosterone mineralocorticoid receptor complex, and it decreases the aldosterone induced proteins, and this causes excretion of sodium and calcium, and potassium is retained. And uses of spironolactone is, it is used in CCF, that is congestive cardiac failure, and then hepatic cirrhosis, nephrotic syndrome, hypertension, and hyperaldosteronism. And a very good example is Cohen's syndrome. And then there is drug interaction. Spironolactone acts with ACE inhibitor and results in high amount of hyperkalemia. Then moving on, we have mannitol. Mannitol is usually given on IV, and then it is inert. It is not metabolized in the body, and it is filtered in the glomerulus. Mechanism of action, it increases the osmolality of plasma, and this results in increase in ECF, and then the GFR is increased, and osmolality of the tubular fluid is increased, and it inhibits reabsorption of water, and all this finally contributes to increased urine output with the presence of these ions: sodium, potassium, calcium, and so on. And uses of mannitol, it's used in increased cranial tension, that is, it is used to reduce the intracranial pressure, reduces the IOP, and also used in shock, cardiovascular surgery, hemolytic transfusion reactions, and maintaining the ECF. Then talking about the adverse effects of mannitol, you have pulmonary edema, you have headache, nausea, vomiting, and contraindications. Where is mannitol used? Okay, it's not used. That is, it is not used in CCF, congestive cardiac failure, pulmonary edema, chronic edema, anuric renal disease, active intracranial bleeding, and acute tubular necrosis. So this topic of diuretics is over. This does not include everything, but just some important points. This is some concise notes. So hope it was useful. Thank you.